Hello and welcome to my video. Today I want to show you how to create this cute looking moon and stars illustration inside the Silhouette Studio Basic Edition, which is a free version of the Silhouette Studio, and it's really all that you need to create such illustration. And today's inspiration comes from my sticker sheet from my Etsy shop, which you can find on the address cuteandglued.etsy.com. And not only you can get those as a physical stickers, but you can get this also as a digital download file in the form of the Silhouette Studio project. So you can download this, open in your Silhouette Studio and print this and cut it on your own if that's what you want, but you can also use those as a base for your own creations. Okay, enough said, let's get started. I will start in the blank document, and as you can see I've already pasted this image, so I will zoom in just so I'm very close to the moon illustration for the reference, like so. And I will start with the moon body, which is kind of like a shape of the circle, but of course part of this is missing. So I will start with the ellipse tool, so open the ellipse tool, but draw the ellipse with the shift key pressed on your keyboard. Just it's not drawing ellipse but a circle instead, and I will somehow try to make it a similar size, but it doesn't have to be of course the same size. The next step would be to duplicate this shape, so I will press this duplicate button in the toolbar, which will create me a copy and move it a little bit to the right side, which is exactly what I want, but I want it to be more moved to the right side. So for this I will use a combination of the right arrow on my keyboard, and I will most likely also press the shift key on my keyboard. So if I do so, if I press the shift key together with the right arrow, it will be moving by bigger increments. And I will just position it in a way that the left shape, which will be a resulted shape in a minute, kind of resembles the shape of the moon. So maybe like so. This looks just about right. So what I will do now is I will select both shapes, drawing the selection rectangle over those shapes, and I will open this panel which is called the modify panel, and in here I will select subtract because I want to subtract the topmost shape from the bottommost shape. So let's hit subtract and we get this moon shape. So what I can do now is I can open the outline properties and pick the eyedropper tool and pick the outline color, because this is probably not black but some kind of dark violet or so. And I will also increase the point size to maybe, I don't know, maybe 1.5 points. This seems about right. And for the fill I will again use the eyedropper tool and pick this yellow color. Obviously you can also click any of those colors which you have in here, or you can open the fill properties, which is this palette icon, and in the advanced option you can choose from any color that you want. Okay, so for the next step I want to create this kind of shadow on the left side. So I will use the same shape, but I will duplicate it on the right side, and then I will duplicate it again. And by the way, I was duplicating it by dragging this shape with the Alt key pressed on the keyboard. So if I press the Alt key and just move the shape, it will create me a copy. That's another way how to create a copy. For the next copy I will again use this duplicate button on the toolbar, because this moves the shapes to the right side. Again, exactly what I want, but I will probably move it just a little bit more using the right arrow key on my keyboard. Again, select both shapes, and in the modify panel again I will click subtract, which will give me this shape which is very similar to the shape of the shadow on the original image, except this time I don't want any outline and I want a little bit different fill color. So I will again use the eyedropper tool to pick with this dark orange or darker orange color. Now see what happens if I move it over our original shape. For some reason it kind of overlays over the stroke, and the reason is that when we add the stroke to the shape, by default it grows to the inner and outer side at the same time. So this is the size of the shape, and if I keep adding keep increasing the point size of the outline, let's say to 10, you can see not only grows inside but also outside. I mean not only outside but also inside. It may not be what we want. So what we can do is we can select this shape, and we can have a special options in the outline properties or line style panel, and this is this position. So we can either say that we want the position of the outline to be above the shape itself or below. So if we set it to below, we will actually see the fill as it should be. So the shadow is no longer over the outline, but now the outline is much smaller because the inner part is hidden by the shape. So what we have to do is we have to make the outline twice the size. So instead of 1.5, we will make it 3. So we are back to our original outline width, but now the shadow is the way it should be. So let me zoom in a little bit and do the easy stuff. And by the easy stuff I mean the eyes and the mouth and the cheeks, because those are just circles and the line. So let's just draw a few more circles with the shift key pressed on the keyboard, and I will draw eye and the cheek, and then what I will do is I will select the fill color from the right side, so it's easy for me to select color. Again, select the fill color for this one as well. Select both shapes with the shift key pressed on the keyboard and set the line to be no line. And I will probably duplicate it using one of those duplication methods. Maybe I will press the duplicate button, move it to the right side, and I will do the same with this circle. So duplicate this one and move it to the right side. And for the mount itself, we will use what's called the flexi shapes. And for this one, I will click in the middle of the mount and drag it to the right side, like so, and then release the mouse and draw this arc in the size of course, 180 degrees around so. I will increase the font size to be 1.5, and of course the color should be one of those dark violet colors, which is used for the eye as well. And it's also one of my last used swatches, so I can just click this rectangle. But in the case I don't have this as a last swatch, I can always use the eyedropper tool and pick this from this. Okay, so what I can do is I can select all the shapes with the shift key pressed on my keyboard and select object group, which will create me a group which I can move together at the same time. I will zoom out a little bit and just move the face around our shape to see what happens. Okay, and I think it looks pretty nice, so I'm very happy with the result. And the only remaining thing are the stars. Now by default, in the free version of the Silhouette Studio, which is called the basic edition, you don't have the option to draw stars, so we have to somehow draw the stars by ourselves, and we will use a simple trick which wouldn't take too much time. So the idea is that instead of drawing a star, because you cannot draw a star, we will instead draw one of those spikes, which is obviously a triangle, and try to position the triangle around the circle 5 times. So we will start with the 5 spikes. So I will start with the triangle, which you can find under this regular polygon tool. So I will draw a regular polygon, and I will draw it with the Alt key pressed on my keyboard just so it snaps to some degrees, like so. And then I will decrease this slider to only 3, so I only have 3 lines. It's a triangle. And I will select Object, Convert to Path, because I want to work with this later on. I can probably change the fill color just so we can see it better. And one thing which we can do as well is set the outline to no outline. Okay, so let's do it like this. Now what I want to do is I want to position this one spike over the circle 5 times, so I need a circle. So let me draw a circle, ellipse, with the shift key pressed is a circle. Then I will select our triangle, and there inside this replicate panel, there's this option to replicate a shape around the path, which is called Object on Path. So what I will do is I will click this tab and I will click the Show Me the Grab handle, which will show me this small handle, which I can then click and drag over the circle like so. And you can see that immediately we get something. We get a star with just 2 spikes. It doesn't quite look like a star, but we can increase the number of repeats to 5, of course. And we get a star in a very easy way. So I'm pretty happy with the result. What I can do is I can click Release Copies, which will create me those 5 different copies, together with the circle, which I don't need anymore. So let me just get rid of the circle by clicking the circle and delete it by the Delete key on my keyboard. Then I will select all the triangles, and in the Modify panel I will select Weld, or I can as well click the Weld button in the toolbar, which will simply create a one shape out of those 5. And I probably don't need the whole inside, so I will click this Edit Points and click one of those edit points in the middle and click the Delete button, or hit the Delete button on my keyboard 1, 2, 3, 4 times until I will get rid of the hole in the shape completely. Now if I quickly examine the stars on my original picture, you can see there is a little bit of rounded edges, and it's actually fairly easy to do this for our star. And the way how to do it would be to add a new outline in any color, doesn't matter that much, which I will set to some big number like 5 or maybe 10. Maybe 10 is too much. And as you can see, by default the line around corners is set to be rounded. If I change this, I can change this to be like cut or normal. But if I set it to rounded, it will automatically create me those rounded corners around edges. So I will most likely go with some values around, I don't know, 7 or 8 points. And the next step would be to somehow make sure that those outlines are not actually outlines but fills instead, because we want to add outline to the outline. We cannot add outline to the outline, so we first have to convert the outline to the fill, if that makes sense. So inside the Modify panel, there's this option which is called the detach lines, which will create a fill from the outline, if that makes sense. If I click this, now the blue one is actually the fill, so I can select both the blue and black and click the weld button, and now this one is just one shape. I can resize it to be smaller. I can change the fill to be white and the outline to be our dark violet color in the size of 1.5 points, and I can just use those selection handles and resize handles and rotate handles and make sure that it's somehow similar to our original image. So I will just rotate it a little bit, make it a little bit bigger and duplicate it. I'm pressing the Alt key on my keyboard to duplicate this, and I will do this a few more times, and I will rotate it in a different spots to make sure that it's kind of random looking. Maybe this one will be even smaller, like so, and this one will be rotated a little bit more. Okay, let me select all of those stars with the Shift key on my keyboard and just move it back to our original shape or our new shape. And I'm pretty happy with the result. So the only remaining thing is to make sure that we have the cut line similar to this one around all our shape. And actually what I will do is I will move this image more to the left side so I have more space on the right side. So what I will do is I will select all the shape, drawing the selection rectangle over all the shapes, and duplicate it in one of the methods. I will probably press the Alt key on my keyboard and just move it down because this is the fastest way how to create a duplicate. Then I will again click the detach lines because we want to make sure that everything is flattened together with the lines. So detach lines, and I will click weld, which should give me this outline for all the shapes. Now we want to make this a little bit bigger, so I will jump to the offset panel and make sure to click offset and set some value which makes sense. And in this case I will probably go with something like 3 or so, maybe 2.5, like so. So there is a little bit of holes inside. I will hit apply and it will create me this nice looking outline. So I can get rid of those individual elements, and for this one I will select to be white color and no outline, and I probably don't want this hole to be in there. So again I will select edit points and click one of those points and hit the delete key multiple times. I will get rid of this inner side or inner hole inside the shape, move it over all the shapes, and of course right click and select send to back and position it properly. And that's it. That's how you create a nice looking moon and stars illustration. So now if you want to print this and cut it on your own, there are a few things which you need to do. So let me get rid of this image because we don't need it anymore, and I can probably position this somewhere around the page like so. So the first thing you need is to make sure that the page size matches your sticker paper size. And if you are in the US, that will most likely be the letter. In the Europe, that will be A4. So that's the one thing. The second thing is you need to set the registration marks, which is this tab. And in most cases, you would set it to type 1. And what I usually like to do is to decrease the inset and the length of the registration marks, just so we have more space in the middle for the content. Because if the length is way too big or the inset is way too big, you can see we cannot add anything over those crosshatched areas, so there is only a little bit of space for the content. Whereas if I make this much smaller, there will be a lot of more space for the content in there. The next step would be to jump to the send pane, and in here I will select everything and make sure that it's set to no cut. Then I will zoom in as much as I can, and I will only select one of those, I mean not one of those, I'll only select this white outline and make sure that this is set to cut. Of course, based on the settings, I'll most likely go with something like sticker paper, which should be down here, so sticker paper clear, which will give me some settings, but it's always a good idea to make some test cuts. I would usually go with depth of 3 and the force around maybe 28 or so, but not only it depends on your sticker paper, it also depends on the edge of your knife and quite a lot of different things. Sometimes it's kind of random. Number of passes should be of course 1 in most cases. Okay, so the final step for you to do is to select file print and print this on your printer, then put it on your mat and feed it back into the Silhouette machine, and just in here click the send button and you should be good to go. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to put those in the comment section, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.